Mexico's president is rejecting the use of American military forces in that country. This follows reports that President Trump has directed the Pentagon to go after Latin American drug cartels the administration labeled as foreign terrorist groups. Here's ABC's Christian Cordero.
Tonight, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum adamant the U.S. will not use military force in Mexico in its crackdown on drug cartels.
Estados Unidos no va a venir a México con los militares.
Sheinbaum responding to President Trump's directive ordering the Pentagon to prepare options for the possible use of military force against certain drug cartels. Two U.S. officials tell ABC News Trump is targeting cartels they labeled foreign terrorist organizations. The president dismissing questions on any possible plan.
Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, we want to protect our country.
According to one U.S. official, the use of military force against cartels is not imminent. The president's directive, the latest escalation in his vow to crack down on the flow of drugs and immigration. Trump, through both terms, has sent thousands of National Guard troops to the southern border and more recently to Southern California. The administration in February designated 8 cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. U.S. officials argue the administration cannot treat them like local street gangs.
They have weaponry that looks like what terrorists, in some cases armies have. They control territory in many cases.
Now, the designation of foreign terrorist organization gives the government more power, but it does not single-handedly allow for the use of military force. So, it's unclear what exactly the government is considering here and what can be done legally.
Let's bring in Jonathan Fahey, former acting ICE director and former DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary. Jonathan, great to have you on the show. I want to play some sound here from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He said this about targeting cartels as terrorists.
Their behavior is going to have to change one way or another, but it allows us to now target what they're operating and to use other elements of American power, intelligence agencies, the Department of Defense, whatever, to target these groups if we have an opportunity to do it. We have to start treating them as armed terrorist organizations, not simply drug dealing organizations.
I mean, I think it's a proper assessment. I don't know what you think about this, Jonathan, but it's interesting because these cartels are no longer just providing these illegal products by the thousands of pounds. They're killing thousands of Americans.
You're exactly right. And if you think about it, just during the Biden administration, 400,000 people died of overdose deaths just in that 4-year term. And as we know, there was just a complete dereliction of duty on the border as well as taking it to the cartels. And just for some context, that's 100,000 more than during the first Trump administration. So a massive increase. We need to take it to them because, people are dying. And President Trump isn't going to just stand by and just say, oh, this is now the status quo. 100,000 Americans a year are going to die of overdose. This is unacceptable. He's going to take it to them. And there's another benefit to this by even talking about this. The messaging is so strong on this. This will inspire cooperation from all these countries where we may be acting in. So all of these will be a good thing. And we'll track this at the end of the year where these overdose deaths go.
And I'm interested in when you get pushback on this because the upside is enormous on this and the downside is also enormous. I mean, if you don't do this and you continue to let tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans die, I mean, this is something that there is a fix to. At least there's somewhat of a remedy to this if we go forward.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like we've had 4 years where we weren't even trying to do something during the Biden administration. Yeah, it's not acceptable because 100,000 people a year dying. Those are those people, their families, their communities. Everyone in this country is affected by this. So it's time to take it to these cartels. And their good days are over. They had their heyday under the Biden administration, but the game is up and the Trump administration is going after them. And I think this is very effective, not only substantively, but I think the message is quite clear on this.
Meantime, let's bring the subject back to some action by federal agents in this country. Here's DHS Secretary Kristi Noem.
The debate over so-called sanctuary policies has real consequences. It has consequences for our law enforcement officers, but also for the families that live here and the businesses that are just trying to provide for their community. Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson are answering that question every single day of who should be our priority, who should be our responsibility, and over again, they're choosing criminals.
Pritzker and Johnson are just two names. You add Newsom to that. You add Karen Bass to that. You've got, I mean, the list goes on, Jonathan. It's one of those things where, you know, they're siding with criminals and it's being normalized.
You're exactly right. And if you think about it, one of the most powerful constituencies in the Democratic Party right now seems to be illegal aliens and illegal alien criminals. It's truly astonishing that they would fight so hard to keep criminals in this country. And remember, they don't just affect the communities of the sanctuary cities. Remember, Laken Riley was arrested in New York. So if there was, you know, enforcement back then, she'd still be alive. Her killer was arrested up in New York, sanctuary city. So these affect all of us, and it's so shameful that the Democrats can't even agree to kick out serious violent criminals because they think it's more politically viable to fight Donald Trump as well as to bring in as many illegal aliens as possible. It's a true disgrace if you think about it.
Yeah. Jonathan Fahey, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Southern border and what could be a stunning escalation in America's war on the drug cartels. The New York Times revealing tonight that President Trump has quietly signed a directive green-lighting U.S. military force outside of the United States. The target? Powerful cartels operating deep inside Latin America. News Nation's Jorge Ventura at the southern border in Hidalgo, Texas, live tonight, where the influence of the cartels is felt daily. Jorge, what are you tracking on this?
Natasha, this is a fascinating update. Earlier this year, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, when he was asked if the military could strike cartels, he says all options are on the table, and we are now getting closer to that. President Trump giving the green light to the U.S. military to strike drug cartels on foreign soil. News Nation did get the opportunity to directly ask the president about this directive to the Pentagon. Take a listen.
You were talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, you know, we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, you know, we're playing a tough game, but we'll have more to say about that soon.
News Nation pressing President Trump on reports that he secretly signed a directive ordering the Pentagon to use military force against drug cartels labeled as foreign terrorist organizations. Groups like the Sinaloa Cartel, Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles, Tren de Aragua, and MS-13. It's the most aggressive move yet in his war on the cartels, opening the door to operations at sea and even on their home turf. The Times says that military planners are already mapping out targets. This after Trump's earlier designations of several cartels as terrorist groups and a $50 million bounty on Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, accused of running a cartel from his presidential palace. In May, the United States and Mexican forces raided 3 major drug labs in Sinaloa, seizing fentanyl and chemical precursors, a rare strike on the cartel's own turf. But there's a wall that Mexico won't let Trump climb. President Claudia Sheinbaum doubled down yesterday, telling reporters that she will never allow U.S. troops to enter Mexico, calling it a violation of sovereignty, though she says she's open to sharing intel and coordinating across the border. What's interesting here also, Natasha, just about an hour ago, I did get off the phone with a contact of mine who was a former Mexican Special Services member. What he says is that the United States could conduct a covert military strike, meaning that the United States could strike cartels and not notify Mexican authorities. Kind of like what we saw last year when the United States was able to capture El Mayo, the co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel. That was a covert mission that the United States authorities did not warn Mexican authorities. And that's what my contact says. We could see something similar like that in this next year or so, Natasha.
I appreciate you speaking with that contact. Jorge Ventura at the border.